Hey, this is Indigenous Patriot. Thank you for joining me. We're going to talk about a couple things today. Basically, two main topics. The first one's going to revolve around race, and the second one is going to be in recognition of Trans Awareness Week, which is happening as we speak until the 20th. So I don't want to miss out on that. Stay tuned. Racism is something that is a hot topic in this administration. As we've seen, our president has done away with diversity training in the United States government. He's also talked about patriotic education, taking out the historical wrongs that our country has done to people of color in our founding and in the subsequent years. That's not saying that there's something wrong with this country in that we don't want to live here. Our families are here. Many of us are patriots, but recognizing the issues that we deal with as a people allows us to forge a better future, because ignoring things never solves anything. That being said, people outside of the government are now seeing that racism isn't just a threat for safety, but it's also a threat for the actual health of people of color. I'm going to read an article. Well, I'm going to read a portion of an article that states that the American Medical Association has recognized racism as a threat to public health. Here's their quote. The AMA recognizes that racism negatively impacts and exacerbates health inequities among historically marginalized communities. Without systemic and structural level change, health inequities will continue to exist and overall health of the nation will suffer. This is a quote by AMA board member Willarda V. Edwards, who's an MD and an MBA. Marginalized communities in the U.S. tend to have shorter lifespans, more chronic illness, higher maternal and infant mortality, and less access to care, said the American Medical Association. They plan to create a set of best practices to mitigate the impacts of racism on patients and providers. Their commitments include things like support of ending the practice of using race as a proxy for biology or genetics in medical education. That's kind of nuts, right? Research and clinical practice, and supporting research that promotes anti-racist strategies to mitigate algorithmic bias in medicine. As physicians and leaders in medicine, we are committed to optimal health for all and working to ensure all people and communities reach their full health potential, said Dr. Edwards. Declaring racism as an urgent public health threat is a step in the right direction toward advancing equity in medicine and public health while creating pathways for truth, healing, and reconciliation. So, what do we take from this? I think a lot of this has to do with resources. So in a lot of indigenous communities, I don't want to say a lot of indigenous communities, but historically in a lot of indigenous communities, you'd have small medical staff that would take care of the tribe as a whole, and a lot of the resources that you would anticipate having in a normal hospital are scarce. Okay, and this is not just for indigenous people. This is also in communities where a lot of minorities live, like blacks and Latina individuals. Basically, outside of major urban centers, where there are smaller populations of people, but those people happen to be predominantly people of color, a lot of medical resources just aren't there. So these people have to travel to other places, and a lot of times they just can't afford the upkeep of it. Another thing that becomes scarce is just the availability for things like insurance and cheaper medications and things like that. On a side note, when I'm talking about that, something that I had read was that, and I don't really know how true this is. Right now, I think everything's fake news, right? Anyway, I read that the indigenous people of Alaska subsisted mostly on basically different types of meat, caribou, whale, etc. Okay, and they were healthy people that, well, they were relatively healthy people that lived their lives, with their lifespans as a pretty stable, I suppose, length of time. If that makes sense. So what I read was that after we introduced, and I mean, the United States government, after the food pyramid was introduced to them, they started having heart disease and things like that. And I personally think that that's because their bodies had grown accustomed to processing the traditional foods that they ate, and so adapting to this change of lifestyle had strong repercussions for them as a people. So maybe that's not the case. I give the disclaimer that I am not a doctor. I'm just somebody that likes to do a lot of research and study and things like that. So if I'm wrong about that, please correct me down below. I would love to have that conversation. While I'm on the topic of race, something that I came across that was very interesting to me, and I feel like pushes us further into the future, is the fact that a record number of black women were elected to Congress in 2020. So not only do we have a record number of indigenous women that are elected to our Congress, and that Deb Haaland is being vetted for a very important position in our government, but we also have elected the most black women ever in Congress. It states, the results from last week's election show that at least 26 black women won election or re-election to Congress, an incremental jump from the record previously set during 2018 when 25 black women were elected to serve on Capitol Hill. So what's really interesting about this particular statement is that they're all part of the same partisan side, and that's the Democratic Party. I have my issues that I can discuss in regards to my opinions on Democrats. I don't feel like any of our parties in this country are just completely wholesome. They all have their issues, but I do think it is a good thing to see a large representation and to be honest with you, a more equitable representation of people of color in Congress. I think that is a strong coming to the table of different perspectives and different conversations, and I'm for it. Okay, I am 100% for it. 2020, that's the second best news I've heard. So let's keep that kind of stuff going. At the beginning of the video, I stated I was going to talk about race, and now we've moved on to recognizing Trans Awareness Week. So I have not understood the perspective of people that do not embrace the strength a trans individual has shown in publicly becoming the people that they know that they truly are. Not only are they changing their physical forms into the proper expression of their true lives, but they're also trying to change the perspectives of the people that were already in their lives when, before, I want to say before the change, but they're not werewolves, they're human beings. In any case, I just don't understand any of the vitriol directed towards people that show such strength and dedication, and I'm in your corner. I commend you. I have a couple friends that are trans, and not just that, but my actual godmother, Shelly, was trans. I say was because she's deceased now, but I grew up around Shelly, and she actually, there was a period of time when some issues happened when I was a child, and I actually lived with her for, I think it was like 6 to 9 months, and it was a beautiful time. Like she was an Italian woman, and we would go and pick basil out in the garden, and as we were making spaghetti sauces and things like that. I remember we used to watch Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves a lot. I love that movie. I don't care. In any case, she used to sing in Atlantic City in a review, and she also was a medium, spirits and all that stuff. I don't have a lot of belief in existential things like ghosts and whatnot, but I don't categorically disbelieve either. I'm in a position where I don't have enough knowledge to have an opinion either way. I'm open to it. That being said, I never grew up with the perspective that Shelley was anything but a woman. And that's because Shelley was a woman. We need to drop the hate and the vitriol and the pointed fingers and the snide jokes and the negativity overall, because the damage that does to these strong individuals, that damage cannot be undone. I mean, think of it in this perspective. How hard is it to step out into a world that is not favorable to your kind? I mean, imagine the jokes that you hear from people, but direct them to you or the people that you love. Okay, it's not something that we as a society need to continue to perpetuate, because we're better than that. I really do think that, despite the fact that 70 million people voted for a jackass, I feel like we are slowly moving forward, okay, on things like, look at it this year. We dropped Confederate flags from our military and the NASCAR and all that stuff. Like we're moving forward a little bit at a time. Not all indigenous people, but a lot of indigenous tribes that I've personally interacted with just haven't had an issue with LGBTQ people. In fact, several tribes believe in the concept of two-spirit. Okay, that's what we call them, two-spirit or special spirit, or the idea is that these people are special. So a lot of ceremonies and things would require a two-spirit individual. There are a lot of two-spirit individuals that were that had strong medicine, so they would be healers or people of wisdom. Okay? Why, as a society in modern day America, have we regressed to the point that we cannot respect an individual for being who they truly are. I'm like beating a dead horse here, but it's something that I feel strongly about. Why, as a society, is it okay for us to say you can pay taxes as a trans, but you can't serve in our military because people are afraid of what bathroom you're going to use? It's not like trans people aren't regular people, and they're all regular people, just regular people, okay? Men, women, just regular people, okay? Just because they're using the bathroom with you doesn't mean that they're going to jump on top of you. It's immature and stupid, and we need to move beyond that. So I recognize you. Not that you need my recognition, because I'm just one person, but just know that I'm in your corner, okay? I don't profess to know everything. I in no way profess to understand how you feel, but know that it's on my radar, and it's something that I feel strongly about, and I will fight for your rights until I can't talk anymore. Okay, so happy Trans Week. I hope that one day in your lifetimes you can see further progress in our culture as we learn to accept and love people that just want to be who they truly are. Hope in these times you stay safe and healthy, and just love one another. We need more of that in our society at this time. We're so divided. We're perpetuating hate like it's a currency, and it's not going to be good for our country. I'm not saying forgive transgressions. There are certain things that probably should be handled appropriately, because just letting them go will incite further actions, further similar actions from people that see that these individuals got away with it. We all know what I'm talking about. But in your personal lives, just love one another. And if you can't love people that are around you, then cut them out of your lives. That's my opinion. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button. The Pitch Canelway. I will see you again.